Welcome, my friend. Tonight, let us drift together into the world of dreams. Since the first fires burned in ancient caves, people have wondered, what do our dreams mean? Are they whispers of the gods, warnings of danger, or echoes of our own hidden thoughts? To those who lived before us, dreams were never meaningless. They were signs, visions, and sometimes the only bridge between the human world and the unseen. From pharaohs who built temples for dream visions, to Mesopotamian kings who carved their nightly fears into clay, to philosophers who saw the mind's theater behind closed eyes, every civilization searched for answers. Dreams guided harvests, warned of wars, promised love, and carried the weight of destiny. As you listen, let the story guide you softly, like a lantern through the shadows of history, glowing just enough to reveal forgotten paths. Let the rhythm of each word carry you deeper, like footsteps in the quiet night. And if you enjoy these journeys, you are welcome to walk with me again. Like this story, share your thoughts in the comments and tell us what parts of history you wish to explore next. Together we can bring forgotten worlds back to life, worlds that still speak, if only we are willing to listen. Now close your eyes, breathe slowly, and let us begin with the very first dreamers. And so before temples rose, and before kings carved their visions into stone, they were the very first dreamers, people who lived by firelight, surrounded by darkness, guided only by what the night revealed to them. Their world was fragile, their survival uncertain, and yet in the silence of sleep, they found something greater, visions that shaped their choices and carried them forward. It is with them that our journey begins. The fire burns low inside a cave, shadows stretching across the stone walls. Outside, the night is wide and restless, filled with the sounds of wind and distant animals. Within, the small tribe sleeps close together for warmth, their breaths rising and falling in unison. Yet even as their bodies rest, their minds travel far. One dreams of a hunt, of antlers breaking through the mist, of feet pounding the earth. Another dreams of a river swelling with fish, a vision of abundance, and a child stirs, whispering in sleep, as if answering voices that no one else can hear. For these first dreamers, visions were not illusions. They were maps, guides, and warnings carried from another realm. To the hunter, a dream could mean the difference between hunger and survival. To the shaman, it was a doorway into the world of spirits, a place where ancestors spoke and animals revealed their secrets. Around the fire at dawn, they would share these visions. Each dream, no matter how strange, was treated with weight, as though the night itself had given counsel. In the flickering glow of ancient fires, dreams were not private. They belonged to the tribe. A dream of danger might send the group to move their camp. A dream of plenty might stir hope in hard seasons. Even the simplest vision of a bird, a storm, or a face could ripple into decisions that shaped the life of the community. For those who lived in this fragile balance with nature, dreams were more than thoughts. They were survival written in shadows. Among the earliest peoples, the shaman was the keeper of dreams. Wrapped in animal skins, painted with earth and ash, the shaman entered trances where dream and waking blended into one. Through chants, drums, and herbs, they walked into the twilight world where spirits dwelled. For the tribe, the shaman's dream was not a private vision. It was a message for all. If the shaman dreamt of a bear, it might mean strength was needed. If they dreamt of fire sweeping across the land, it could be a warning to prepare for hardship. In some places, shamans described dreams of flying, journeys above forests and rivers, where they claimed to meet animal guides and ancestors who offered counsel. Even thousands of years later, traces of these beliefs remain. In the caves of Lascaux in France, painted more than 17,000 years ago, some figures appear half human, half animal. Were they drawn from dreams? Some scholars believe these images are glimpses of visions seen in trance or sleep, the blurred boundary between human and spirit. To our ancestors, dreams were not only messages, they were portals. The night was a place of passage, where the soul left the body and traveled to other realms. In some hunter-gatherer societies, it was believed that a dream could bring back knowledge from the other side. If someone dreamt of a new hunting ground, the tribe would follow. If they dreamt of an enemy, the group would prepare for conflict. To dream was to step into a hidden landscape where answers waited to be discovered. Anthropologists who studied Aboriginal cultures in Australia note the concept of the dream time, not just a nightly vision, but a sacred realm where creation itself was woven. Every dream was a thread, connecting the dreamer to ancestors, spirits, and the land. The dream was not less real than waking life. It was in many ways more real, a reminder that the physical world was only part of existence. Imagine waking in a world where there were no books, no maps, no written records. What remained were stories told around the fire, and dreams carried from night to night. When food was scarce, a dream of game returning to the valley could mean hope. When sickness spread, a dream of healing herbs might save lives. For parents, a dream of their child in danger was not dismissed. It was protection, taken seriously, acted upon. Dreams in these early times were both fragile and powerful. Fragile, because they vanished quickly at dawn, like mist in the sun. Powerful, because they could shape decisions that meant life or death. The tribe lived at the edge of survival, and the dream was a compass pointing into the unknown. Unlike in our modern world, where dreams are often kept private, ancient communities treated them as communal knowledge. At dawn, they gathered, hunters, mothers, children, and spoke of what they had seen in the night. Sometimes, dreams confirmed each other. Two people might dream of the same storm or the same animal, and this was taken as certainty. Other times, a dream contradicted another, and it became the shaman's role to interpret which was truth. The act of sharing gave dreams weight. They were not simply passing visions. They became stories, carried forward, guiding choices, teaching lessons. The importance of dreams in these earliest times is echoed in myths that survived for millennia. In many traditions, creation itself began with a dream. The universe imagined before it was made. Gods dreamed the world into being. Heroes received quests in dreams. Entire peoples moved because of visions seen in the silence of night. From the earliest hunter by the fire to the great kings of later ages, the dream was never just sleep. It was a bridge from fear to hope, from human to divine, from present to future. And so, as we look back into the darkness of prehistory, we can almost see them. The first dreamers, a child sleeping against their mother's chest, whispering to spirits only they can see. A shaman painted in ochre, trembling with visions of flight. A hunter waking at dawn, heart racing, convinced that the deer he saw in his dream will appear in the valley. They lived with mystery, and they trusted it. For them, the dream was not just a private shadow. It was life itself, a sacred thread binding human survival to the unseen. The silence deepens, the fire burns low. The first dreamers fade into the mists of time, but history moves forward. Villages rise, kingdoms form, temples are built, and with them, dreams take on new forms. No longer only visions by firelight, but messages written in stone, preserved in papyrus, and offered to the gods themselves. This is where our journey leads us next, to ancient Egypt, where dreams became sacred messages from the divine. The bells of medieval cathedrals still rang across Europe, but their sound was no longer absolute. A new world was stirring, one of questions, of experiments, of salons where men and women gathered to debate not only politics and art, but the very structure of truth itself. And among the many mysteries they placed under the light of reason was the ancient puzzle of dreams. Picture a salon in Paris. Chandeliers glitter, Servants move quietly with trays of wine, and the air hums with talk. Philosophers in powdered wigs and elegant women in silk gowns lean forward in their chairs. The fire crackles, and the topic of the night is whispered, then spoken aloud. What do our dreams mean? One voice, calm and dismissive, declares, dreams are nothing more than the leftovers of waking life, distorted shadows of the day. Another counters, but do they not reveal something deeper, the hidden self, the desires we dare not speak? Laughter rises, then fades into serious murmurs. In this room, every question matters. And then, from the shadows of thought, Descartes' voice returns, sharp and unsettling. When I dream, I believe myself awake. How then can I ever be certain that this life, this very moment, is not a dream? The room grows still. To doubt dreams is to doubt waking. To doubt waking is to doubt reality itself. The chandelier light trembles as though echoing the unease. This was the spirit of the Enlightenment, curiosity wrapped in courage, reason, daring to question not only kings and dogmas, but the very foundations of certainty. In the centuries before, dreams had belonged to the church. They were visions of saints or temptations of demons, but the philosophers of the Enlightenment sought to place them under the same scrutiny as stars, plants, or the human body. John Locke argued that dreams were made of ideas left in the mind, the fragments of memory, rearranged by imagination. No gods or devils were required. The mind itself was enough to explain the visions of sleep. Aristotle's old words found new strength. Dreams were not divine, but natural. They were shaped by sensation, by memory, by the humors of the body. Physicians began to study sleep with greater attention, noting how food, illness, or emotion could stir particular dreams. The dream became an object of study, no longer sacred, but scientific. And yet, the mystery did not die. For even as philosophers wrote with clarity, people continued to wake with questions. Why do dreams feel so real? Why do they sometimes foretell events? Why do they touch us with fear or joy so deep that waking cannot erase it? The Enlightenment loved theater, and in many ways it described the dream as a stage. By night, memory and imagination dressed themselves as actors, replaying scenes from the day or inventing new dramas. Think of the philosopher David Hume, who spoke of the mind as a bundle of impressions, constantly shifting. Dreams, he said, were simply these impressions, rearranged, less orderly than waking thought, but of the same material. To him, the dream was not prophecy, but performance, a drama born from the stage of the mind. In the salons, this idea took on life. Imagine a hostess leaning forward, fan in hand, asking, if dreams are only imagination, then why do they frighten us so deeply? Why do they sometimes tell us truths before they happen? No one has a simple answer. The laughter and debate swirl, and the fire burns lower. Dreams resist easy capture, even under the bright lamp of reason. Even in this age of logic, dreams did not fully surrender to science. Some Enlightenment thinkers, like Emanuel Swedenborg in Sweden, claimed visions of the night carried messages from the spiritual world. He described journeys through heavens and hells, dreamlike travels that blurred the line between philosophy and prophecy. His followers believed him, while skeptics scoffed. This tension between reason and wonder defined the Enlightenment. Dreams were no longer solely the voice of God, but neither were they entirely stripped of mystery. They became a meeting place, half science, half spirit. As the 18th century gave way to the 19th, a new discipline was born. Psychology emerged, and with it, new ways of seeing the dream. Physicians began cataloging sleep disorders, noting how nightmares might be caused by indigestion or anxiety. The mind was no longer a vessel of mystery alone, but a system that could be studied, mapped, and perhaps even healed. Sigmund Freud would later call dreams the royal road to the unconscious, a phrase that still echoes in our time. He argued that dreams revealed hidden wishes, buried desires disguised in symbols. A dream of climbing a staircase might mean ambition. A dream of water might reflect desire or fear. Freud brought the dream back to a central place in human thought, not as prophecy, but as psychology. Carl Jung, his student and rival, gave another vision. Dreams were archetypes, echoes of a collective unconscious shared by all humanity. A hero in a dream was not just personal but universal, a reflection of myths carried in the soul of every culture. For Jung, dreams were not only private plays but timeless stories, connecting each dreamer to humanity's oldest symbols. And so, through Freud and Jung, the Enlightenment's legacy deepened. Dreams were no longer dismissed as chaos or illusion. They became maps of the self, of desire, of culture. Now, in our own age, we still carry the Enlightenment's questions. Scientists place electrodes upon sleeping heads, measuring brain waves and rapid eye movements. They tell us that dreams occur when the brain fires in restless patterns, that they are the byproduct of neurons sparking at night. And yet, even with all this knowledge, we wake with the same old wonder. Why did I dream that face? Why did I dream that place I have never seen? Why did my heart race as though it were real? The Enlightenment gave us tools, but not certainty. Reason illuminated much, but the dream remained, elusive and strange, always slipping beyond the grasp of analysis. The salons fade. The philosophers leave their chairs. The ink dries on their manuscripts. The Enlightenment has spoken of reason, of observation, of the mind's stage. But history moves forward, and with it, dreams continue to evolve. The 19th and 20th centuries will carry Freud and Jung, science and psychology, deeper into the labyrinth of sleep and beyond even them. In our own time, dreams remain a mystery we cannot fully master. Our journey now leaves the glow of Enlightenment chandeliers and enters the modern age, where dreams are studied in laboratories, dissected by analysts, and yet still wander free in the hidden chambers of the soul. The silence of the desert night is heavy, broken only by the sigh of wind sweeping across endless sand. In the distance rises a temple, its stone walls glowing pale under the moon. Torches flicker at the entrance, and the air is thick with incense. Inside, men and women lie down upon mats, eyes closed, waiting. They have come here not to worship in song or prayer, but to sleep, to dream. For in Egypt, dreams were the language of the gods. The ancient Egyptians believed that sleep opened a doorway to the divine. To dream was to step into a chamber where gods whispered, and ancestors revealed their will. Pharaohs, priests, and ordinary people alike turned to dreams for guidance. They did not dismiss visions of the night as mere imagination. They recorded them, studied them, and built entire rituals around them. Imagine the hush of a dream temple. These were sanctuaries where seekers came to practice dream incubation. They purified themselves with water, burned offerings of fragrant oils, and lay down upon sacred ground. They hoped that in the silence of night, a god would visit them with a vision. Perhaps Thoth, the god of wisdom, would appear to answer a question. Perhaps Sekhmet, goddess of healing, would bring a cure for illness. When dawn came, priests of the temple would listen carefully, recording the dream and offering its interpretation. For the pharaohs, dreams were no less serious. They were seen as messages that could affirm power or foretell danger. A vision might warn of rebellion, promise victory, or reveal the will of Ra, the sun god. A pharaoh who ignored a dream risked ignoring the gods themselves. To rule Egypt was to watch not only the floods of the Nile, but the visions of the night. We know this not only from temples and myths, but from fragile papyrus that has survived the centuries. The Chester Beatty Papyrus, dating back to around 1200 BCE, is one of the earliest known dream books. Written in careful hieratic script, it contains a catalogue of dreams and their meanings. A man dreaming of drinking warm beer, for example, was told he would face misfortune. To dream of seeing one's face reflected in water meant joy was near. Each dream was paired with an omen, good or bad, and priests used these interpretations to guide the faithful. But dreams were more than omens. They were tied to Egypt's understanding of the soul. Egyptians believed the human spirit had many parts, and one of these, called the Ba, could leave the body during sleep. In dreams, the Ba could travel freely, wandering the world of gods and spirits, only to return at waking. A dream was not a shadow of thought. It was the soul itself on a nightly journey. Picture, for a moment, a farmer along the Nile. He has worked under the heat of the sun, sowing seeds into the dark, fertile soil left behind by the floods. That night, he dreams of jackals circling his fields. To him, this is no accident. He will rise at dawn and seek the advice of a priest, perhaps Anubis, the god of the jackal, is sending him a warning. Perhaps enemies wait nearby. His life, his family's survival, may depend on what the dream reveals. Now imagine a young woman entering a temple. Troubled by sickness, she lies down on the cool stone floor, the air filled with the murmur of prayers. In the night, she dreams of a great lion-headed goddess, fierce and radiant. When she wakes, she believes she has seen Sekhmet, and that healing will come. For her, the dream is not a fantasy. It is medicine. It is hope. Even in their art, dreams found expression. In painted tombs, figures of the dead were shown sleeping, their spirits rising into the air. In myths, gods appeared in visions to guide heroes or to punish those who strayed from order. To live in Egypt was to live in a world where the veil between waking and dreaming was thin. And yet, with all their reverence, Egyptians also feared dreams. Not every vision was divine. Some were thought to come from demons or restless spirits. To guard against these, people used amulets, charms, and prayers. A bad dream was not simply forgotten. It was an intrusion that had to be countered with ritual, lest it grow into misfortune. Through it all, the dream remained central. In palaces, in temples, in the quiet homes along the Nile, dreams guided harvests, shaped battles, and offered glimpses of eternity. They were not entertainment, not distractions of the mind, but a nightly dialogue with the unseen. Close your eyes and imagine the desert again. The temple is silent, the torches burning low. Inside, a pharaoh sleeps, waiting for the gods to speak. In another chamber, a farmer dreams of his fields, and a mother dreams of her child. Across Egypt, thousands sleep, thousands dream, each vision a thread in the vast tapestry of belief, each one woven into the rhythm of life along the Nile. And so the Egyptians, with their temples, their papyrus records, and their sacred rituals, gave dreams a place of honor. They treated them as messages, as warnings, as blessings. And when dawn came, they carried those visions into their waking lives, building their choices upon them. But Egypt was not alone in listening to the language of sleep. Far to the east, between the great rivers of the Tigris and Euphrates, another people also watched the night with reverence. There, kings and priests inscribed their visions upon clay, believing each dream was shaped by gods or demons. As the desert wind carries us across the sands, we arrive in Mesopotamia, the cradle of written dreams. The land between the rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates, was called Mesopotamia, and here too, people turned to their dreams. In the shadow of ziggurats that rose like stairways to the heavens, priests and kings listened carefully to the visions of the night. For in this place, dreams were not idle wanderings of the mind. They were messages, sometimes from the gods, sometimes from darker forces that sought to deceive. By torchlight, scribes bent over clay tablets, pressing wedge-shaped marks into soft earth that would harden into memory. Among these tablets were records of dreams, kings who dreamt of floods, generals who dreamt of battles, and ordinary men who dreamt of omens, both hopeful and dire. The Assyrians and Babylonians left behind entire manuals of dream interpretation, carved into clay, that told the faithful how to read the language of sleep. One of the oldest stories in the world, the Epic of Gilgamesh, begins with dreams. Gilgamesh, the great king of Uruk, is visited by visions that foretell the arrival of his companion, Enkidu. Later, he dreams of mountains collapsing, of storms raging, of journeys to the underworld. Each dream is rich with meaning, each one a step in the hero's fate. To the people who heard this tale, dreams were not fantasy. They were threads woven into destiny itself. The priests divided dreams into two kinds, those sent by the gods, which were to be cherished, and those sent by demons, which were to be feared. A dream could be a blessing, a promise of victory, abundance, or divine favor, but it could also be a curse, a dark omen that demanded ritual to ward off disaster. To dream of a lion might mean courage was near. To dream of a broken wall could mean that danger was already at the gate. Each vision required attention, for to ignore a dream was to ignore the voice of the unseen. Imagine the king of Babylon lying awake in his chamber, troubled by a vision of fire sweeping through his city. At dawn he calls his priests, who listen carefully and consult their tablets. They declare that the dream is a warning, that enemies may already be plotting. The king orders offerings to the gods, hoping to change the course of fate. In Mesopotamia, a single dream could bend the decisions of rulers, armies, and entire nations. But it was not only kings who dreamed. Farmers, traders, and soldiers all turned to their visions for meaning. The soldier who dreamt of victory might march into battle with confidence. A mother who dreamt of water rising too high might fear for her family and seek protection from the temple priests. Every dream, no matter how small, carried weight. The rituals of dream interpretation were deeply bound to religion. Priests would anoint the dreamer with oils, offer sacrifices, and chant to the gods, asking for clarity. Sometimes the dream itself was less important than the ritual it inspired. To dream of illness, for example, might lead to prayers and offerings that renewed the dreamer's bond with the divine. In this way, dreams reinforced faith and wove the community more tightly to their gods. The people of Mesopotamia also believed that the soul could wander during sleep. Much like in Egypt, dreams were journeys, sometimes peaceful, sometimes perilous. In some stories, the dreamer was carried to the heavens, where gods revealed hidden truths. In others, they were dragged into shadowy underworlds, forced to confront fears and demons before waking. These journeys were as real to them as the rising of the sun. It is striking to think that thousands of years ago, by the glow of fire and lamp, men and women sat together, speaking of their dreams in words pressed into clay. Across the centuries, we can still read those marks. We can still hear the echo of their questions, not so different from our own. What does this vision mean? Will it bring joy or sorrow? Is it a blessing or a warning? And so, in Mesopotamia, dreams were honored and feared. They were written down, preserved, and studied. They guided rulers and touched the lives of the ordinary. They were not the idle play of sleep, but the language of the divine. Yet the story does not end here, for across the sea, in the land of marble columns and philosophers, dreams took on another form. No longer only omens or prophecies, they became the subject of healing, of philosophy, of wonder. In Greece, dreams were not only the voice of the gods, they were also the theater of the mind. The streets of Rome never truly slept. Even at night, the sound of footsteps echoed on stone. The glow of torches lit the forum, and whispers moved through the alleys. But behind the marble walls of villas and palaces, dreams unfolded in silence. Dreams that could sway armies, crown emperors, or foretell the fall of nations. For the Romans, dreams were both an inheritance and an invention. They inherited the wisdom of the Greeks, the omens of the East, and the rituals of the Etruscans, who had long believed that gods revealed their will through signs. But Rome gave dreams a new place, at the heart of politics, prophecy, and power. In the early Republic, dreams were already respected. The Senate, that gathering of stern men in white togas, often consulted augurs and interpreters when troubling visions arose. A farmer dreaming of wolves might mean nothing, but a senator dreaming of fire consuming the forum, that could not be ignored. Rome was a city built upon omens. From the flight of birds to the shape of lightning, the gods were believed to speak constantly, and dreams were part of that dialogue. As the Republic grew into an empire, dreams became even more dangerous. They were not only private visions, they could decide battles, topple rulers, or stir fear in the people. Emperors watched their dreams carefully, for in them lay signs of glory or of doom. Perhaps the most famous of all was the dream of Calpurnia, wife of Julius Caesar. On the eve of the Ides of March, she dreamt of her husband's statue bleeding as Romans washed their hands in the flow. Alarmed, she begged him not to attend the Senate, but Caesar dismissed the warning, choosing pride over caution. That morning he was struck down by the knives of conspirators, just as her dream had foretold. To the people of Rome, it was proof that the gods had spoken, and Caesar had failed to listen. Other emperors treated their dreams with reverence. Augustus, the first emperor, believed that a dream foretold his rise to power. Suetonius, the Roman historian, tells us that Octavian's mother dreamt she was visited by a serpent, a vision interpreted as divine conception. For Romans, such a dream was not scandal, but sacred, a sign that Augustus was chosen by destiny itself. Dream interpreters, conjectors, flourished in Rome. These men made their living by listening to visions, studying omens, and offering meaning. Some worked in markets and streets, whispering interpretations to ordinary citizens. Others found their way into the courts of emperors, where their words could change history. A single interpretation might inspire confidence in a general or convince a ruler to hesitate before battle. In this way, dreams became weapons, wielded by those clever enough to shape their meaning. Dreams entered Roman literature as well. In Virgil's Aeneid, Aeneas is guided by dreams as he journeys from Troy to Italy. In Ovid's Metamorphoses, dreams are described as rising from two gates, one of horn, through which true visions passed, and one of ivory, through which came falsehoods. Poets understood what the people believed, that dreams could reveal truth, but also deceive. But dreams were not only for emperors and poets. Ordinary Romans also sought meaning in their visions. A soldier might dream of broken weapons and fear defeat. A merchant might dream of gold and expect profit. Women in particular turned to dream books for guidance in love and family. To dream of water could mean fertility. To dream of fire, passion, or destruction. In this way, dreams touched every corner of Roman life, from the grand politics of the Senate to the intimate hopes of the household. Yet with all their reverence, the Romans also feared dreams. Bad visions were considered dangerous intrusions, to be countered with rituals and sacrifices. Priests would slaughter animals, read their entrails, and pray to avert disaster. A dream was never dismissed as harmless. To forget or ignore it was to risk angering the gods. Imagine the night before battle. A Roman general lies awake in his tent, the distant murmur of soldiers outside. He dreams of eagles flying high, their wings unbroken, and wakes with confidence, certain of victory. Or perhaps he dreams of his own armor rusting, crumbling to dust in his hands. At dawn he looks at his men with unease, knowing the gods may already have judged the outcome. For Rome, dreams were inseparable from destiny. They were woven into the story of the empire, shaping its leaders and its people alike. They gave comfort, sowed fear, and reminded all that the gods watched closely, even in sleep. The silence lingers. The city sleeps, but never fully, in its temples, in its streets, in its palaces. The Romans turned their faces to the night and asked what the dreams would bring. But beyond Rome's marble arches and the roar of its legions, other worlds dreamed differently. In India, dreams spoke of karma and dharma, threads in the great cycle of rebirth. In China, Confucian scholars dismissed dreams as illusions, while Taoist sages embraced them as portals to hidden realms. From the Empire of Rome, we turn eastward, across deserts and mountains, into lands where dreams were shaped not by power and prophecy, but by balance, spirit and destiny. The journey eastward begins with silence. The roar of Rome fades, the marble arches vanish, and in their place rise mountains, forests, and the soft glow of temples under starlit skies. Here in India and China, dreams took on a different shape. They were not only omens of power or prophecy of war. They were threads in the great fabric of balance, morality, and spirit. In India, the Vedic texts spoke of dreams as windows into karma and dharma, the law of action and the path of duty. Dreams could reveal the weight of past deeds or hint at the course of future lives. To dream was to glimpse the hidden order of the universe, the cycles of rebirth that bound each soul. In the Upanishads, dreams are described as movements of the self, traveling freely when the body rests. The dreamer wanders through realms of illusion, encountering gods, animals, and spirits, until waking returns them to the material world. In this vision, the dream was not merely a message but a lesson, a reminder that life itself might be no more than a greater dream. The Buddha's own mother, Queen Maya, is said to have dreamt of a white elephant entering her side before his birth. This vision was taken as a sign of the greatness to come, proof that even before birth, destiny could speak through sleep. Buddhist traditions later expanded this view, teaching that dreams reflected the restless mind, attachments, and fears. To dream vividly was to see one's illusions laid bare, yet some dreams, especially those of saints and bodhisattvas, were seen as holy, visions of truth from beyond the veil. In monasteries, monks recorded dreams as guides to meditation and insight. For them, the dream was both warning and teacher, urging the dreamer closer to enlightenment. Now let us cross further east, into China, where the philosophies of Confucius and Lao shaped how people understood the night. For the Confucians, dreams were often dismissed as unreliable, the chatter of a wandering mind, not to be trusted as guidance for important decisions. Life demanded discipline, order, and reason, and dreams could too easily mislead, yet not all agreed. The Taoists saw dreams as journeys of the spirit. To sleep was to free the soul from the body, allowing it to travel between worlds. Taoist masters practiced dream cultivation, techniques to control visions, to seek wisdom, and to encounter immortals. In their view, dreams were not illusions to be ignored, but doorways to hidden realms, places where truth might be glimpsed beyond ordinary sight. Perhaps the most famous reflection on dreams came from the philosopher Zhuangzi. He once dreamt he was a butterfly, fluttering freely in the sunlight. When he awoke, he asked himself, was he Zhuangzi who had dreamt of being a butterfly? Or was he a butterfly now dreaming he was Zhuangzi? This gentle question lingered in Chinese thought for centuries, a reminder that the boundary between waking and dreaming, reality and illusion, was never certain. For the ordinary people of India and China, dreams held meaning in daily life as well. Farmers dreamed of rains and harvests. Merchants dreamed of journeys and fortune. Lovers dreamed of reunion or loss. Dream books circulated, offering guidance for every vision, to dream of fire, of water, of animals, of ancestors. Some sought the help of priests, monks, or Taoist sages to interpret troubling visions. In every case, dreams were not ignored. They were woven into the rhythm of life, shaping choices and offering comfort or caution. Imagine a monk in a Himalayan monastery, waking at dawn and recording the dream of a lotus opening in still water. He takes it as a sign of clarity, of spiritual progress. Picture a Chinese scholar in his study, troubled by a dream of a broken bridge. He wonders if it means a friendship will fail or a path in life will close. Across these lands, people looked inward as much as outward, treating dreams not only as omens, but as reflections of the heart. What unites the East is a sense of balance. Dreams could be sacred or deceptive, wise or foolish, yet they were always part of the greater whole, tied to morality, destiny, and the cycles of life. They were not isolated visions, but mirrors of the eternal. The silence deepens. From the banks of the Ganges to the bamboo groves of China, people closed their eyes and listened to the whispers of the night. Some sought enlightenment, some sought prophecy, some simply sought reassurance. All believed that dreams carried meaning, even if that meaning was elusive, even if it slipped away with the dawn. But time does not stand still. The ancient worlds of India and China continued their traditions, yet far to the west, another transformation was taking shape. The ancient empires of Rome and Greece had fallen, and Europe had entered a new age, an age of castles and cathedrals, of monks and peasants, of faith and fear. In this world, dreams became more dangerous, more uncertain. They could be visions of saints, or traps of the devil, promises of salvation, or whispers of damnation. And so our journey turns now to the Middle Ages, where the line between heaven and hell was never clear, and where dreams carried the weight of eternity. The sound of waves breaking on the Aegean shore drifts into the night. Beyond the olive groves and marble temples, a pilgrim walks slowly, carrying an offering of honey and incense. His destination is a sanctuary of Asclepius, the god of healing. He does not come to pray with words, but with silence. He comes to lie down upon the cool stone floor and surrender himself to sleep. For here, in this sacred place, the Greeks believed that dreams could cure the sick and guide the troubled. In the world of ancient Greece, dreams were woven deeply into daily life. They were visions, prophecies, messages, and mysteries. They could save a life, inspire a poet, or trouble the mind of a general before battle. No matter how ordinary or extraordinary, dreams were part of the rhythm of existence, to be respected, studied, and sometimes feared. The most famous practice was incubation. At the temples of Asclepius, pilgrims would cleanse themselves with ritual baths, sacrifice animals, and enter the abaton, the sleeping chamber. There, in the stillness, they awaited a healing dream. Some claimed the god himself appeared, laying his hand upon their wound. Others dreamt of serpents, sacred to Asclepius, winding across their bodies, drawing sickness away. At dawn, priests would listen, interpret, and prescribe remedies based on the visions of the night. Imagine a woman crippled by pain, who travels for days to reach the temple at Epidaurus. She lies down upon the marble floor, the scent of incense heavy in the air. In her dream, a shining figure appears, touching her with warmth. She wakes with tears in her eyes, convinced she has been healed. For her, the dream is not illusion, it is salvation. But healing was not the only purpose of dreams in Greece. They were also subjects of philosophy. Plato saw them as glimpses into the hidden parts of the soul, where desires and fears rose without restraint. Aristotle, ever the observer, wrote that dreams were natural, born of impressions, lingering in the senses. To him, they were not divine messages, but shadows of experience, echoes of the day, playing in the mind at night. Between Plato and Aristotle, we see the two great paths of Greek thought, one reaching upward to the divine, the other seeking answers in reason and observation. Dreams also appeared in Greek myth and literature. In Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, dreams guided heroes and warned of danger. In one passage, Zeus sends a dream to Agamemnon, deceiving him into battle. The gods used dreams as tools, sending truth or falsehood as they pleased. For the Greeks, a dream might lift a hero to glory or lure him to ruin. Even in history, dreams shaped events. The historian Herodotus records that Xerxes, king of Persia, dreamt of a figure commanding him to invade Greece. Though his advisors counseled caution, the dream pushed him forward into war. In another tale, Alexander the Great dreamt of a satyr before capturing the city of Tyre, interpreting the vision as a sign of victory. These stories, whether legend or truth, show how seriously dreams were taken. Even the greatest leaders bent their decisions to the shadows of the night. But for ordinary Greeks, dreams were not always lofty matters of philosophy or empire. They were woven into daily life. Fishermen sought omens in dreams of calm or stormy seas. Farmers read visions of fertile fields or withered crops. Lovers found hope or despair in nightly encounters with imagined faces. And everywhere there were dream interpreters, men who made their living by listening to visions and offering meaning, much like their counterparts in Mesopotamia and Egypt. Over time, Greeks developed dream manuals of their own. The most famous was written by Artemidorus of Daldy in the 2nd century CE. Though he lived in the Roman era, his work drew upon centuries of Greek tradition. His book, One Era Critica, catalogued thousands of dreams and their interpretations. To dream of losing teeth, he wrote, meant the death of a relative. To dream of flying suggested ambition or escape. Artemidorus insisted that the meaning of a dream depended on the dreamer's life, their work, their fears. In this way, he brought a new nuance. Dreams were not universal, but deeply personal. Picture Athens at twilight. The streets hum with voices. Philosophers debate beneath porticos, and in quiet homes, men and women drift into sleep. Some will dream of the gods, some will dream of daily labors. A soldier may dream of victory, a mother of her child's future, a poet of verses yet unwritten. Each will wake with questions, wondering if the night has spoken truth or fantasy. And always, the dream remains, a companion, mysterious and haunting, never fully understood. The Greeks gave us something unique. They looked both upward and inward. They saw dreams as divine messages, yet also as reflections of the human soul. They built temples to honor them, and they wrote philosophy to explain them. In doing so, they created a legacy that shaped how later civilizations, including our own, would think about the strange theater of the mind. The silence deepens. The sea grows calm. Greece has given us temples, myths, philosophers, and poets, all bound to the visions of sleep. But as history moves forward, another empire rises. Rome inherits Greece's wisdom, but bends it to its own will. For in Rome, dreams were not only sacred visions, they were tools of power, politics, and prophecy. And so we leave the marble sanctuaries of Greece and step beneath the arches of Rome, where emperors and generals listened to their dreams, as though the fate of the world depended upon them. In the Middle Ages, dreams were not merely private wanderings of the mind, they were battlegrounds of the soul. Every vision in the night carried weight. Some believed they were messages from God. Others feared they were snares laid by the devil. Picture the dim light of a monastery. A monk sits at his desk, a quill in hand, copying the visions of a brother who claimed to have seen purgatory in his sleep. The account is written carefully, for such a dream is more than personal. It is a warning to all, proof of the fire that awaits sinners and the salvation promised to the faithful. Across Europe, countless such visions were recorded, blending dream with doctrine until the two were nearly inseparable. For peasants and common folk, dreams offered guidance in daily struggles. Without books, without formal schooling, they turned to the images of the night for answers. A dream of wheat could mean a good harvest. A dream of falling could mean death. In village markets, dream books were passed hand to hand, crude collections of omens and their meanings. These guides simplified the vast mysteries into a language ordinary people could use, even if the church warned against superstition. But the church itself relied on dreams. Saints were believed to appear in visions, offering comfort or rebuke. The Virgin Mary was said to come to the faithful in sleep, whispering encouragement or demanding devotion. Entire pilgrimages began because of dreams. A peasant might claim a saint had told him where to find relics, and soon a shrine would rise, visited by thousands. Not all dreams were welcomed. A dream of demons was taken as evidence of temptation, proof that the devil prowled not only in the world, but in the mind. Monks wrestled with these visions, waking, shaken, confessing to their brothers. Manuals of confession sometimes asked specifically about dreams, urging the faithful to report them, lest hidden sins fester. Medieval kings, too, feared and followed their dreams. Chronicles tell of rulers who changed the course of campaigns because of a troubling vision. One such tale recounts Emperor Constantine, who before battle dreamed of a cross shining in the sky with the words, "In this sign you shall conquer." He awoke convinced of divine favor, and victory followed. His dream became legend, woven into the story of Christendom itself. Yet for all the reverence, suspicion was never far away. To dream too vividly, to claim too much, could be dangerous. Women especially were vulnerable. A vision claimed as holy might elevate one woman to sainthood, while another, speaking unwisely, could be condemned as a witch. Dreams balanced between sacred vision and dangerous delusion, depending on who dreamt them and how they were told. Imagine lying in a wooden bed, the straw rustling beneath you, the cold seeping through the stone walls. You dream of fire, of shadows moving, of voices calling your name. You wake with fear. Was it God warning you? Was it Satan testing you? Or was it only your hungry body, shaping visions out of exhaustion? In the medieval mind, such questions were never simple. The soul was always at stake. The medieval world lived with mystery. The night was long, the candlelight dim, the silence broken only by prayers and whispers. In this silence, dreams became more than dreams. They were proof of an unseen battle, constant and unending, between salvation and damnation. And so Europe dreamed with both hope and dread. Visions of saints could inspire devotion, while dreams of demons could send a soul trembling to confession. The church guided, the people interpreted, and every sleeper knew the night might bring comfort, but it might also bring terror. The centuries passed, and the medieval age gave way to something new. Cities grew larger, scholars questioned old certainties, and the first glimmers of science appeared. In this changing world, dreams began to lose their place as divine revelations, no longer only tools of faith or weapons of fear. They became mysteries for philosophers and physicians. Our journey now leaves the shadow of monasteries and cathedrals. We step into the dawn of the Enlightenment, where dreams would be studied not only as visions of God or traps of the devil, but as secrets of the human mind itself. Close your eyes for a moment. Think of the last dream you can remember. Perhaps it was vivid, a place, a face, a sound so real You woke with your heart still racing, or perhaps it was fragile, a fragment that slipped away before morning light. Whatever it was, you carried it with you for a while, wondering what it meant, if anything at all. This feeling, the weight of the dream, the question it leaves behind, is what brought us into the modern age of dream interpretation. For centuries, people looked to gods and saints, but in the 19th and 20th centuries, a new voice rose. Not the voice of priests or kings, but of doctors, analysts, and scientists who turned their gaze not upward to heaven, but inward, into the human mind. Sigmund Freud was the first to declare it openly. Dreams are the royal road to the unconscious. He believed that every dream is a coded message, a hidden desire, disguised in symbols. He called it wish fulfillment. The secret language of the sleeping mind, speaking what we dare not say when awake. Imagine lying on the couch in his office, the sound of a clock ticking softly, the smell of ink and leather around you. You begin to describe your dream. Perhaps you dreamed of climbing a staircase. Freud leans forward, nodding to him. This is not about stairs. It is about ambition, desire, the struggle to rise. Perhaps you dreamed of water. To him, it is about longing, hidden emotion, even the body itself. Freud listened not only to what was spoken, but to what was hidden. The slips, the symbols, the shadows. He saw the dream as a mask, behind which the true self waited. Night after night, his patients unfolded their dreams, and in those fragments, he claimed to see the architecture of the human soul. Not everyone agreed with him. His own student, Carl Jung, took another path, where Freud saw personal desire. Jung saw something greater. He spoke of archetypes, universal patterns, images that appear in the dreams of all people, across all cultures. A hero, a mother, a shadow. These were not just private symbols. They were ancient, collective, shared by humanity itself. Picture then, a dream of walking through a forest, pursued by something unseen. Freud might say it is fear of repressed desire. Jung would say it is the shadow, the hidden side of the self, the parts of us we deny, but cannot escape. To Jung, the dream was not only personal therapy, it was myth, memory, the echo of countless lives carried in the deep well of the unconscious. Both Freud and Jung transformed how we think about dreams. They brought the dream into the clinic, the study, the laboratory. They asked us to treat it, not as superstition, but as truth, even if that truth was difficult, even if it frightened us. But even as psychology grew, science pressed further. By the mid-20th century, machines could measure the rhythms of the sleeping brain. Electrodes traced lines across paper, revealing patterns of REM, rapid eye movement. Where dreams most often occur, scientists saw the body twitch, the eyes move beneath closed lids, the pulse quicken, and they realized this is when the mind is alive with visions. And yet, even with wires and machines, the mystery endured. The scientists could say when dreams happened, but not why. Some argued they were random, the brain firing without purpose. Others said they were essential, clearing memory, shaping learning, giving balance to the mind. Still, the question lingered, just as it had for shamans, for priests, for philosophers. What do our dreams mean? Think of your own, the one that startled you awake, the one that haunted you for days, the one you wished would never end. Modern psychology says these are windows into yourself. They are maps of memory, desire, fear, and hope. They are mirrors, showing you what you cannot see in the rush of daily life. Freud would ask, what is the hidden wish? Jung would ask, what archetype have you met? And you, perhaps, are left only with the image, vivid and unexplained. The modern world gave us tools. It did not erase the mystery. We can wire the brain, study the waves, name the stages of sleep, and still, the dream slips away at dawn, as fragile and powerful as ever. Close your eyes again. Imagine lying in bed as a modern dreamer. You do not think of demons or saints. You think of memory, of desire, of stress, of symbols. And yet the feeling is the same as it was for the first dreamers by the fire. You wake, and you wonder. You wonder if the dream was only the brain, or something more. You wonder if it will return. The modern age has taught us much, but in truth, it has given us the same conclusion as the ancients. The dream is a mystery, a shadow that will never fully speak. We chase it with philosophy, with psychology, with science, but it always escapes, always leaving a trace of silence in its wake. And so, in Freud's clinic, in Jung's archetypes, in the scientist's laboratory, we see the same search, the search to know what dreams mean, why they come, why they matter. Perhaps that is their greatest power, not to give answers, but to keep us asking. The silence lingers. The dream waits. And history, too, waits for its next chapter. For as the modern world advanced into the 20th century, dreams became more than private visions. They became subjects of art, of surrealism, of cinema. The dream spilled out of the bedroom and onto the canvas, the screen, the stage. What had been whispered in darkness became painted in vivid color, projected in flickering light, written into poetry and prose. Our journey now leaves the quiet of psychology's couch and the hum of scientific laboratories. We step into a world where artists and thinkers seized the dream as their own, not as prophecy, not as medicine, but as the raw material of imagination itself. Close your eyes and imagine walking into a gallery at night. The room is silent. The paintings glow faintly in the dim light. At first you see landscapes, mountains, oceans, skies. But as you look closer, something shifts. A clock begins to melt across the canvas. A face turns into a cloud. A staircase leads upward and disappears into nothing. This is not reality. This is the dream world, painted onto the walls. By the 20th century, dreams had left the clinic and the laboratory. They had become the raw material of art, no longer confined to the bedchamber or the analyst's couch. They spilled onto canvas, film, and page. Artists and poets seized the unconscious, determined to make its strange language visible. Think of Salvador Dali, standing before his canvas, brush in hand, painting visions that seemed impossible, and yet undeniable. His famous melting clocks, in the persistence of memory, are not the clocks of waking life. They are the clocks of dreams, soft, unstable, slipping away. To look at them is to feel the same unease as waking from a vision that dissolves before you can grasp it. Dali himself said his art was hand-painted dream photographs. He believed the dream world was more real than waking, and his work gave it form. And he was not alone. Surrealism, born in Paris after the turmoil of the First World War, became an entire movement dedicated to the exploration of dreams. André Breton, the poet who wrote the manifesto of surrealism, declared that dreams and waking life should no longer be separate. He urged writers and artists to let the unconscious speak freely, to bypass reason and allow images, associations, and visions to flow without censorship. In this way, surrealism was less an art style than a philosophy, a belief that dreams were the purest truth, untouched by logic, closer to the essence of being. Painters, sculptors, filmmakers, and poets all followed this call. They created works that looked like fragments of dreams, floating bodies, impossible landscapes, scenes where logic dissolved and imagination ruled. Imagine standing before a painting by René Magritte. You see an apple, but it is too large, filling the room. You see a man in a bowler hat, but his face is hidden by a cloud. These images puzzle you, unsettle you, draw you inward. They are not meant to be explained but felt, just as a dream resists interpretation, yet lingers in memory. In film too, dreams took center stage. Surrealist directors like Luis Buñuel brought dream logic to the screen. In Un Chien Andalou, the famous silent film created with Dali, scenes shift without reason. A razor cuts an eye, ants crawl from a hand, doors open onto endless corridors. The audience watching felt the same confusion and fascination as if they were dreaming with their eyes open. Even outside surrealism, the language of dreams shaped modern art. Writers experimented with stream of consciousness, letting thoughts flow like visions in the night. Poets embraced the irrational, weaving symbols that felt like fragments of another world. Filmmakers used dream sequences to reveal hidden truths about their characters, blending the real with the unreal until the boundary dissolved. Why did this happen? Perhaps because the modern world, with its machines, wars, and revolutions, left people disillusioned with logic. Reality felt broken. Dreams offered another path, not certainty, but freedom. To enter the dream world was to escape the constraints of time, reason, and control. It was to find something more human, more honest, in the strangeness of the unconscious. And yet, as we walk through this gallery of dream art, we see more than chaos. The surrealists believed dreams revealed desire, fear, and truth. They were not random, but essential, mirrors of the unconscious. Just as Freud and Jung listened to dreams for meaning, the artists painted them, filmed them, and wrote them, making them visible to all. Picture yourself standing before Dali's clocks once more. You feel the strangeness of their form, the way they drip like wax, bending and sagging. You realize they are not only about time, but about memory, about the way dreams stretch and distort reality. In the dream, time is never fixed. Hours pass in seconds, or seconds stretch into eternity. Dali captured that truth in paint, making the invisible visible. Now imagine stepping into a cinema in the 1920s. The flicker of film on the screen. You see a sequence of images that make no sense, yet they strike you deeply. They feel like a dream you cannot explain, but cannot forget. For the audience of that age, it was as if the secret world of their sleep had been projected before them, raw and undeniable. Dreams also shaped literature beyond surrealism. Franz Kafka, though not a surrealist himself, wrote novels and stories that feel like nightmares unfolding on the page. In the trial, a man is arrested, but never told his crime. In the Metamorphosis, a man wakes to find himself transformed into a giant insect. These stories are not logical, but they capture the unease of dreams, the sense of being trapped in a world that is both familiar and impossibly strange. In poetry, the dream became metaphor and method. Writers spoke of the unconscious as a fertile soil, where the seeds of creativity grew. They wrote in fragments, in images, in bursts of vision, echoing the rhythms of dreams. To read them was to enter the dream world awake. And so, in the 20th century, dreams were no longer confined to sleep. They entered every corner of culture. They became paintings, films, poems, and novels. They shaped how we saw the world, reminding us that logic was not the only truth, that the irrational, the mysterious, the dreamlike was just as real, and perhaps even more revealing. As the century moved forward, science continued its study of dreams, but artists continued their exploration as well. The two paths ran side by side: laboratories with electrodes measuring brain waves, and galleries with canvases dripping with visions. Both sought to capture the dream, to hold it, to make it known. Neither fully succeeded, for dreams are slippery, always escaping, always returning in another form. Close your eyes one last time in this gallery. Around you hang the fragments of the unconscious. Melting clocks, faceless men, endless corridors. On the screen, the film flickers with impossible images. In the book you hold, Words scatter like shadows. This is the modern dream spread across culture, made visible to all, and yet still mysterious. The silence deepens, the paintings fade, the projector slows, but dreams do not end here. They continue into our own time, into our own nights. For even with all the art, all the science, all the philosophy, the question remains, what do our dreams mean? And so we step forward into the present, an age where dreams are recorded on machines, painted on screens, shared across digital networks, an age where science seeks explanation, but art still whispers mystery. The story of dreams is not finished. It never will be. For as long as we close our eyes, the night will open its door, and the dream will wait, where researchers study it with electrodes, sensors, and graphs, reducing the mystery of the night into measurable signals of the brain. In laboratories, volunteers sleep while machines record their inner journeys, charting the rise and fall of brain waves, tracing the flicker of the eyes behind closed lids, noting the rhythm of each breath. For the first time in history, humanity can say with confidence when a person is dreaming, even if the dream itself remains hidden. Scientists speak of REM sleep, of memory consolidation, of emotional processing. They tell us that dreams are not random illusions, but essential to survival, a nightly weaving of memory and meaning, without which the mind begins to fray. And yet, for all this precision, something slips away. A line on a chart can show when the dream begins, but not what it feels like to walk through its shifting corridors. A set of data points can reveal how often we dream, but not why a single image from childhood returns again and again in the silence of night. The mystery of meaning still eludes the microscope. Dreams, even under the scrutiny of science, remain what they have always been: fragile, personal, and deeply human. While science works to understand the dream, technology has begun to shape it. Devices now claim to induce lucidity, guiding sleepers to take control of their dreams. Headsets flash gentle pulses of light at the closed eyes, or whisper subtle sounds designed to slip into the fabric of the dream without waking the sleeper. Some experiments even reconstruct faint images of what people see in dreams by tracking patterns of neural activity. For the first time, the private world of the dreamer is no longer completely private. The visions of the night can be hinted at, replayed, perhaps even shared. This brings wonder, but also unease. If a dream can be recorded, does it remain sacred? If it can be manipulated, does it remain free? We stand at the edge of a new paradox. For millennia, dreams belonged to the realm of gods, spirits, or the human soul. Now they are pulled into the circuitry of machines. Artificial intelligence, trained on the vast libraries of human imagination, produces dreamlike images, landscapes that never existed, faces of people who were never born. In a sense, machines have begun to dream, but they dream with our memories, our desires, our fears. The images they create are not their own, but mirrors of us, stitched together in a mechanical unconscious. Still, as we look at what AI produces, impossible cities, surreal creatures, uncanny visions, we cannot help but feel the echo of what once stirred within us under firelight thousands of years ago. The future of dreams may not belong to the sleeper alone. It may belong to networks, to algorithms, to the infinite memory of the digital world. And yet, even now, even with all our science, technology, and machines, the dream remains untamed. It begins when the eyelids fall, when the body lies still, when the mind slips beyond reason into mystery. No laboratory, no algorithm, no recording device has yet captured the full essence of what it means to dream. The vision still dissolves when we wake, leaving only fragments, a scent, a voice, a fleeting image. Perhaps that is the final truth. Dreams resist capture because they are not meant to be owned. They remind us that part of our existence will always remain beyond control, beyond measure, beyond understanding. As we move further into the digital age, building machines that imitate thought, that simulate imagination, that whisper illusions of their own, we may discover that the dream is the last refuge of mystery. The first dreamers gathered around firelight, seeing visions they could not explain. We, centuries later, surrounded by wires and screens, stand in the same place. We close our eyes, breathe slowly, and wait for the silence of the night to open its hidden door. And in that moment, for all our progress, we are no different from them. We are still dreamers, walking together into the shadows of the unknown. And so, my friend, our journey through the history of dreams comes to a close. From the first fires that lit the caves of our ancestors, to the glowing screens of our present age, humanity has always searched for meaning in the visions of the night. Perhaps we will never fully capture them, and perhaps that is the beauty of it. If you've walked with me through these shadows and lights, I thank you. Your presence gives these stories life, and I would love to hear what echoes lingered for you. Share your thoughts, your curiosities, and tell me what corners of history you'd like us to wander through together next. If this story has soothed or inspired you, I invite you to stay close, to like, to subscribe, and to keep these journeys alive. There will always be another forgotten world waiting in the silence. For now, close your eyes, let the weight of the day fall away, and drift gently into your own dream. Good night.